Welcome to the March Garden Calendar. In this episode, we will look at what plants will be blooming, what needs fertilizing, and what to prune. Also, we will have a brief segment on lawn care. We have a segment on honeybee swarms. In our video segment, we will have an in-depth look at starting seeds indoors. Also, we will look at renovating cool season lawns. All this and more in this episode of the March Garden Calendar. Plants in flower for the month of March. The saucer magnolia, Bradford pear, flowering cherry, forsythia, the star magnolia, breath of spring, spirea, flowering quince, Carolina jasmine, periwinkle, thrift, violets, crocus, daffodil, hyacinths, tulips, and much more. Fertilizing in the month of March. Fertilize your shrubs. Fertilize your important shade trees. Fertilize your asparagus beds early in March before the spear growth begins. And before planting your vegetables, fertilize your garden as recommended by your soil test results. Apply the recommended amount of lime if this was not done in the fall. Honeybee swarms. Honeybees often swarm in the spring when their population increases rapidly and conditions inside the hive become too crowded. Prior to swarming, the bees will gorge on honey to fuel their flight. Then the queen and half the bees will take off in search of new digs. But before the swarm makes it too far from the hive, it will take up temporary residence on something nearby. A bush, a tree, a branch, a picnic table, a fence, etc. Clustered together with the queen inside. The cluster of bees will stay put for a few hours up to a few days while scout bees search for a new home. From the beekeeper's perspective, swarming is considered something to avoid because it drastically reduces the number of bees available to make honey. Some beekeepers who aren't interested in harvesting honey but keep bees more for pollination services may view swarming as a helpful self-thinning event. But if the swarm leaves later in the year, it can leave behind a colony too weak to make it through the winter. Ideally, beekeepers try to prevent swarms. Here in Alexander County, we are just beginning the swarm season now. Help these swarms find a new hive home. As for the small beekeeper, it's a great way to increase their number of hives. If you observe a swarm on your property and would like someone to come get it, you can contact a local beekeeper or call the Cooperative Extension at 632-4451, and we will connect you to a beekeeper who will help you place these bees in a nice, safe home. Pruning in the month of March. Prune your fruit trees if you've not already done so in February. Prune spring flowering plants like breath of spring and flowering quince after the flowers fade. Prune your roses in March. Prune shrubs like abelia, mahonia, and nandina this month if needed. Pick off faded flowers of pansy and daffodil. Pansies will flower longer if old flowers are removed. And your overgrown shrubs can be severely pruned, but not the needled evergreen shrubs. There's a lot to plant in the month of March. First, plant a tree for Arbor Day. Arbor Day is always the first Friday after March 15th. Plant your small fruit plants, grapevines, and fruit trees before the buds break. March is a good month to transplant trees and shrubs. New shrubs and ground covers can be planted the entire month of March. Be sure to follow your planting plan. Plant seeds of the following perennials such as columbine, hollyhock, coreopsis, daisy, and phlox. Sweet William can be planted this month also. New rose bushes can be planted this month. Plants of broccoli, cabbage, and cauliflower should be set out in the garden in mid-March. The following vegetables can be planted this month: beets, carrots, cabbage, kale, kohlrabi, lettuce, Swiss chard, turnips, potatoes, broccoli, and cauliflower. Start any annual flowers or warm season vegetables inside your home that are not commercially available in early March. Starting seeds indoors. When you grow your own seedlings, your transplants can be ready for the garden as soon as the danger of spring frost has passed. You can start enjoying flowers and harvesting vegetables 4 to 6 weeks earlier than if you had waited for the ground to warm up enough for you to sow those seeds outside. Starting your plants from seed also allows you to choose from the much broader array of varieties offered by seed catalogs. Commercial transplant sellers typically offer only a very limited number of different varieties for sale. Using transplants instead of direct seeding is especially important for plants that take a long time to mature or are sensitive to frost, such as tomatoes, peppers, eggplants, and melons. Some plants, mostly your root crops, do not transplant well, or they mature quickly enough that starting seedlings indoors is not necessary. Vegetables that are typically direct seeded in the garden include beans, beets, carrots, corn, peas, spinach, turnips, and zucchini. As far as supplies go, you'll need some good seed. Use fresh seed from a reliable source. Use seeds saved from a previous year only if they have been stored in a cool, dry place. Containers. Seeds may be planted in any clean 2 to 3.5 inch deep container with adequate drainage holes. You can use containers made of plastic, compressed peat, or wood, or recycled containers such as the cut-off bottoms of milk jugs. Using shallow trays or flats sold in garden supply stores saves space when you want to start a lot of single types of seed. The seedlings will need to be separated and transplanted into containers as they grow. If you want only a small number of plants, skip this step and direct seed into individual small pots or plastic cell flats. Containers that have been previously used for planting should be thoroughly cleaned and disinfected with a solution of 1 part chlorine bleach to 9 parts water. This helps prevent diseases. As far as the growing media goes, seeds should be germinated in a fine textured, soilless mix with no fertilizer. Standard seed starting mixes include equal parts of peat moss and vermiculite or perlite. You can either buy a seed starting mix or prepare your own at home. Soil from the garden is not recommended when germinated seeds in containers. It may contain weed seeds or diseases, and it tends to compact, dry out, and crust over too quickly for fragile seedlings. Once seedlings have emerged and developed 1 or 2 sets of true leaves, you can transplant them into a slightly larger container with a coarser seedling growing mix. Now for planting your seeds. You can figure out when to plant your seeds based on how long the seedlings will take to become mature enough to be transplanted into the garden. Seedlings may take from 4 to 12 weeks. The amount of time usually will be indicated on the seed package. To determine when to start seeds indoors, count back from the last spring frost date in our area, which is about April 15th. Some seeds may need special treatment before they are ready to germinate. Be sure to check any instructions on the seed package. Since seeds vary widely in how well they germinate, plant to sow more than you will actually need. Fill containers with moist, growing medium, and gently press seeds onto the surface. Some seeds are fussy about the amount of light they need to germinate. Follow the package directions and cover accordingly. A general rule of thumb is to cover each seed with a layer of growing medium about 2 times as deep as the seed's diameter. Label the container and cover it with clear plastic. Most seeds need warmth to germinate, usually a soil temperature of 65 to 70 degrees. Find a warm spot in the house, like on top of a refrigerator or near a wood stove, or use heating cables or mats to help ensure a consistent warm soil temperature. Avoid putting the trays in direct sunlight at this time. The soil could get too hot and kill the seeds. Keep a record of what you planted, when you planted it, and when it is to germinate, and how well it did in the garden so that you can see whether you need to make changes next year. For various vegetables, they take different lengths of time to germinate. So vegetables that take about 6 to 9 weeks such as eggplants, peppers, tomatoes, we would need to probably start them about March 1st. For other plants, such as cucumber, melons, and squash, they only take about 4 weeks, so we would put them back and start them about March 15th. So now on growing your seedlings, as soon as sprouts appear, remove the plastic cover and move the seedlings into bright light. Under fluorescent lights or grow lights is ideal, but a south-facing window can work. They need 14 to 16 hours a day of natural or fluorescent light to keep from becoming leggy. The growing temperature should be about 55 to 65 degrees, so avoid drafty windowsills. Once the second set of true leaves appear, water with half-strength solution of fertilizer. You can use water-soluble all-purpose plant food, either synthetic or organic. Gradually increase the strength of the solution over time. Water from the bottom or use a very fine sprinkler to avoid damaging the tender seedlings. Do not overwater them, as this is often a grower's mistake. A common problem when growing seedlings is a disease called dampening off. Infected seedlings develop a dark-colored rot at the base of the stem, then shrivel and fall over. The fungi that causes dampening off thrive in warm, moist soils, the same conditions that seeds need to germinate and grow. To minimize the risk of dampening off in your seed trays, use a sterile, well-drained growing medium. Space your seedlings so that air circulates between them, and do not overwater. Do not sprinkle frequently, as it will keep the soil surface too moist to promote fungal growth. Instead, water the seed trays thoroughly and wait until they are almost dry before you water again. Seedlings should be thinned at least 1 inch apart or transplanted into individual pots. When transplanting seedlings, you should handle them by the leaves only. Their stems are very delicate, and while a seedling can stand to lose a part of or all of a leaf, it will not survive with a bruised or broken stem. As far as transplanting to the garden, the young plants will need 1 to 2 weeks of hardening off before they go into the garden. Hardening off is the process of acclimating plants to outdoor conditions. Start by setting them outside for a few hours at a time in a protected semi-shady location, such as a porch or under a shrub. Outdoor temperatures should be 45 degrees or warmer. Gradually increase the time outdoors and exposure to direct sunlight. Transplant your seedlings to the garden in a late afternoon after the heat of the day has subsided, or on a cloudy day, and water them thoroughly. So good luck with starting your own seeds. Lawn care for the month of March. Your cool season lawns may be fertilized with 10-10-10 or other blend, but not with the slow-release fertilizer. Apply crabgrass herbicides to your lawn this month to help control crabgrass in the turf. Mow your tall fescue lawn as needed, and seed fescue and bluegrass if not done in September. Renovating cool season lawns. If you didn't get that lawn sown in the fall, or if it's gone downhill since then, now is a fair time to renovate that lawn. A primary cause for renovating is filling in areas where grass has died out. This could be symptomatic of poor pH, incorrect fertilization, excessive thatch, or a variety of other causes. Make sure to start with a soil test and use the results to determine how much fertilizer and lime to apply to correct your pH and nutrition. After the soil sample, reduce weed competition in the areas you plan to reseed. Plan to use a combination of hand weeding and herbicide to tackle these weeds, especially tough perennials. If the area has thatch buildup, wait a week after applying the herbicides before dethatching. For bare spots, till the top 4 to 6 inches and smooth the soil before reseeding. Ensure uniform broadcasting by passing over the area in one direction with half the seeding rate and then applying the remaining half at a right angle to the first pass. For areas where grass is thin but present, use a dethatcher or verticutter to slice an opening in the ground. Drop seed in the furrows and lightly cover. Some cool season grasses such as tall fescue do not spread to fill in an area but will form bunches. Keep newly planted areas moist with light irrigation. As these areas fill in, encourage deeper rooting by watering less frequently but for a longer duration. Deeper roots are more resilient and can lead to a healthier stand of grass that has fewer weeds and disease issues. Avoid over-fertilizing or adding too much nitrogen, as this can push growth too quickly. leading to stress and health issues. For information on when to reseed, fertilize, and manage weeds in fescue or other lawns, see the NC State Lawn Maintenance Calendars. For those not renovating that have an established lawn, putting out a crabgrass pre-emergent may be a needed chore. Early to mid-March is the time to apply pre-emergent herbicides to lawns in our area. These products are usually applied as a granular and then watered into the lawn. If your summer lawn is typically weedy, applying a pre-emergent now could help reduce summer weeds, depending on that type of weed you have and the health of your lawn. To be effective, pre-emergent products must be applied before seeds of summer weeds sprout, which usually happens around the time that the dogwoods begin to bloom. So applying a pre-emergent in early March, around the time the forsythias bloom, will ensure the product is in place before weed seeds start to sprout. The downside of using pre-emergent herbicides is that they can stunt root growth on weak turf grasses. In a healthy, vigorous lawn, the impact is usually not a problem. Just remember, the active life of these products is usually about 90 days, so that means in June or mid-June, you'll probably need to get out there and put another application of this pre-emergent out. Additional tasks for the month of March. Continue to divide your perennials like daylily, Shasta daisy, gaillardia, coreopsis, and others this month. Check garden supplies like fertilizer, insecticides, and fungicides to see if you have adequate amounts. Check all your garden equipment, lawnmowers, tillers, hedge trimmers, tools, hoses, sprayers, to see if they're in good working order before they are needed. And be certain that old plantings of perennials like peony, hollyhock, and phlox are clean of last season's growth. Well, we hope you've enjoyed our garden calendar. If you have questions, call us at 632-4451 or visit us at our website at alexanderextension.com, where there's lots of helpful information and events. And you can also sign up for a monthly newsletter there. That's alexanderextension.com. Or stop by and visit us at the Alexander County Service Center at 151 West Main Avenue. Hope to hear from you soon.